Hey everybody, Dragonfire here, and thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. I want to talk real fast um, about how I make these lists because, yes, we're continuing the all-time NBA team list today. Yeah, continuing the all-time NBA teams list today, and today we're doing the all-time Houston Rockets. Now, with these teams, how I started each team out is I went and I looked up the top 10 players in win shares for every franchise. And those 10 players then became the basis of my team, top 10 players in win shares. But then beyond that, I went in to look at other factors like did a player, was there a player who maybe didn't play with the team for a long time, so maybe didn't rack up the win shares, but they were important to the team, especially if the team was winning, like if they won an NBA championship or if they went to the NBA finals, stuff like that. Or did a particular player win an MVP with that team? Did a particular player win Finals MVP when they won a championship, or did a player win Defensive Player of the Year? That kind of stuff. Like what were they doing with the team and how did they contribute to the team's success? Because, like I said, maybe a player didn't play as long, so they didn't rack up as many win shares with that franchise, but they were with the team during a winning period of time or had some sort of major accomplishment. And I've been kind of holding back. I've been kind of hesitant to do this Houston Rockets because I kind of wanted to revise my list as I have it because I just was feeling like, and maybe I didn't take all this into consideration or that into consideration. And so I was kind of unsatisfied with my Houston Rockets team, but I'll give it to you the way I have it right now because I just haven't had the time lately to go in and really reevaluate and make changes. But there are some players that I left off my all-time Houston Rockets team that I don't have on the list right now, who I really strongly am considering like rearranging the team, making room for. And those two players actually are Tracy McGrady and Robert Ory. Now, Ory was there for both of the two championships in Houston history, the Houston Rockets history. They've only won two championships, and they won those championships in 94 and 95, um, which does put them kind of in the upper echelon of NBA teams. I think there's about if I'm thinking correctly, I think it's probably about 15 or so teams have won two or more championships in NBA history. So there's I think 20 teams that have won at least one NBA championship, and it's probably around 15 or so that have won two or more. So that definitely puts them in the upper half of NBA franchises. But anyway, um, uh, the Houston Rockets is one of those teams. They did win back-to-back championships in 94 and 95. Robert Ory was a good part of those two championship teams. He wasn't the star player necessarily, but he was a good role player. Really won championships with three out of the four teams he played for in his career. He didn't win a championship with the Phoenix Suns, but he was only there for a short period of time. But the thing about Robert Ory is if you just look at his statistics, they don't necessarily look all that impressive. But he played way better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. Um, and he was a big part of like buzzer beater shots and stuff that helped some teams win playoff games and playoff series and championships. So there's a reason why Robert Ory won seven championships in his career, and two of those with the Houston Rockets. There's also Tracy McGrady, um, and he was a big part of the Rockets franchise there for a while. Didn't spend a long time with the team, but he was a good three-point shooter and whatnot with the team, and the Rockets had some success with him on the team. But anyway, those are two players I thought, maybe I could figure out how to reshuffle the team and kind of include them in it. But anyway, I'll give you my team as it stands right now without me having reshuffled. In the picture that I have at the top, when I show my sheets, my picture, um, it's just a random picture of some all-time Houston Rockets that I got off the internet. So you can see Tracy McGrady is in that picture, but I did not include him on my team initially, but I'm kind of sort of rethinking maybe he should have been included. Anyway, like I said, um, I'm taking into account, uh, you know, things like MVPs and DPOYs, but also looking at top 10 win shares, how many win shares did they accumulate with the team and so on. Okay, this is the team as it stands right now. So, with the Houston Rockets, I divided it up into a first team, second team, and third team, so I have 15 players complete overall. So with my first team, my point guard is Calvin Murphy, longtime point guard for the Houston Rockets, mainly known for his play in the 1970s, and was one of the greatest free throw shooters of all time, and a very outstanding point guard of the 70s. With my shooting guard, I've got James Harden, who won an MVP as a Houston Rocket. And my small forward, I got Rudy Tomjanovich, who would also probably be my coach, my all-time coach for the Rockets. He played, or he was a coach for the two championship teams back-to-back in the 90s. But he also was a player for the Houston Rockets back in the day. He's in top 5 win shares, so it explains how, he ended up on my starting lineup here. But that's one that I could probably switch him out for the starting lineup for a player maybe had less win shares and played less time, but was more impactful to the team winning. But he was a multiple-time All-Star back in the day. My power forward, I got Moses Malone, who won 2 MVPs as a Houston Rocket. He played for them back in the 80s and helped lead them to the NBA Finals in 1981, and was an MVP that year. And so he was a big part of their upset. Like, everyone thought the Lakers were going to the finals in 81, and Moses Malone led the Rockets to upset them and beat them in the Western Conference playoffs, and then went on to the NBA Finals to face the Boston Celtics. Unfortunately, they didn't win, unfortunately for Houston Rockets fans. They got beat by the Celtics. And my center is the greatest player in Houston Rockets history, without a doubt. That's Hakeem Olajuwon. He won regular season MVP as well as 2 Finals MVPs and 2 DPOYs. And he was the pretty much undisputed best player on the back-to-back championship teams in 94 and 95. He also helped lead them to the NBA Finals in 86, even though they lost to the Boston Celtics in 86 as well. But even as a young player, he was very impactful for that 86 team that went all the way to the NBA Finals. So there's no question that Hakeem Olajuwon is the greatest player in Houston Rockets history. For my second team, I've got Stevie Francis as my point guard, followed by Robert Reed as my shooting guard, Otis Thorpe as my small forward. He was a member of the first championship team in '94. Elvin Hayes is my power forward. and Yao Ming as my center for the second unit. For the third team, I got Kenny Smith and Clyde Drexler at the guards, Charles Barkley and Clint Capella for the forwards, and Ralph Sampson at center. Now, Ralph Sampson uh, in '86 was part of the Twin Towers duel. Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson were the Twin Towers on the Houston Rockets at that time. That helped lead them to the '86 NBA Finals. So during the period of time where they had the most team success would be the '80s and '90s. They had 2 finals appearances in the '80s and 2 championships in the '90s. So Moses Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon, Ralph Sampson, Kenny Smith, uh, Otis Thorpe uh, were some of the players who played on those either championship teams or at least NBA Finals teams. So that factored into the equation. All right, but anyway, I will show you the list here, and there you have my all-time Houston Rockets. So you can pause it on there and check out my list. And yeah, you can see got 3 MVPs on the starting lineup, and James Harden, Moses Malone, and Hakeem Olajuwon. Um, all 3 of them won at least 1 regular season MVP for the Rockets, and both Moses and Hakeem Olajuwon was 2-time Finals MVP as well as a 2-time DPOY. So, um, yeah, there you have my all-time Houston Rockets team. Um, Let me know in the comment section who you would pick for the all-time Houston Rockets. I think it's a no-brainer. You got to have Hakeem Olajuwon as your starting center, or on the starting lineup of the greatest Houston Rocket of all time. Uh, Again, Moses Malone led them to the NBA Finals in '81, and was a 2-time MVP. And of course, James Harden also had an MVP as a Houston Rocket. So anyway, yeah, give me your picks for the all-time Houston Rockets. And thank you, everybody. Dragonfire out.